Good afternoon, everybody. How is everybody doing? Thanks for joining the stream here. Yeah, we're doing it here. It's raining in LA right now. I love the rain. It's very, very peaceful today. So there's a couple announcements while everybody's still rolling in here. So the Discord channel here is actually taking a little step up here because we got Sotomonte as a moderator, and he's helping out, organizing this Discord chat and making it awesome and really taking it to the next level here. I don't know much about Discord, and this is my first time actually making a Discord channel. So I just want to give Sotomonte a shout out here and say thank you so much for stepping up and helping this go to the next level here, because it's really going to help bring everybody together in a fun and organized way. So I think that's super cool. Thanks so much, man. Yeah, we're working at it. We got some FAQs going on here. We got some rules going. We're going to organize these chat rooms here. So if you have Cinema4D specific conversations or Blender specific conversations, we can talk about all that stuff, in a more organized way. We got some emojis coming. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be super sweet. So thank you, Sotomonte, for doing that. Guys, I must admit, I have no idea what we're going to do today. For the first time, maybe the second time, have absolutely no idea what's going to go down on the stream right now. So, obviously I got Cinema4D open right here. And we're going to make something. I know that some of you guys had asked about lighting in the stream suggestions, or rather tutorial suggestions, little bit here on the Discord. And some of you asked about lighting and how to light well with spotlights and area lights. We can certainly talk about that. That's no problem. But I'd like to ask you guys here who are here live right now, what do you guys want to learn today? What do you guys want to talk about? It is pretty much open. We're going to go for the next 2.5 hours or so. And we can do whatever we want. So let me hear it, guys. What do y'all want to learn? And also, really cool that you guys are visiting this live stream from all over the globe. We have someone in, South Africa? Someone from, let's see, where are y'all from? Austin. Austin, do you still live in Atlanta? We got South Africa. What else we got, guys? We got Spain. Well, hopefully everyone's staying safe out there, because the coronavirus has gone crazy over the last week or so. So hopefully everybody's feeling good inside, ready to learn. We got Pakistan, Argentina, Croatia. Oh my goodness. This is awesome. India, Virginia, Portugal, Sweden, Spain, Las Vegas, Mexico. This is awesome. This is an international group here. Germany, Brazil, Poland, Palestine. Another India, Trinidad. Dang. This is cool. This is really cool. All right, so what do you guys want to learn here? Underwater scene. Potentially an underwater scene. Okay. Play with some dynamics, connectors, springs, motors. That's always fun. Let's see. What else, y'all? What else? What should we do? Give me some suggestions here. Drawing an octopus, making an underwater scene. Okay. I've never done an underwater scene. It'd be interesting. Could be very interesting, actually. Okay, we got fluid simulations, Octane Toon Shader, What else, y'all? What else? An exploding head? Ooh, that'd be rough. Keep the ideas coming. Okay, Athens, the lost city, a sunken city, an abandoned train station. I'm always down for abandoned train stations. Volumetric underwater lights. Let's see. Something that shows my sick texturing skills. Okay. I do love texturing. I really, really do love texturing. Projection mapping. On a tracked shot with some ground shatter. Oh, that's a classic one. That's actually a really good idea. Car on the forest road. Abandoned train station. A shipwreck. What could we do in 2.5 hours? I think we could certainly set up an underwater scene in 2.5 hours. You know, with some like coral reef business going on. Some central subject in the middle, some floating something, or some like half buried something in the sand with like a nice spotlight shining down on the subject, maybe. I think that's probably the best bet so far. Rain scene with abandoned places. I am a sucker for abandoned stuff in the rain. Train station, but there's a boat instead of a train. Oh my goodness, that's pretty funny. Yeah, just like an old pirate ship coming through the subway. That'd be awesome. Coronavirus. What would the coronavirus... My girlfriend says no. I was thinking about something coronavirus related, like someone in a hazmat suit walking through empty streets or something, but that might take a little longer than 2.5 hours. Jake War, thank you. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you're able to catch one as well. I have no idea what we're doing today, but we're going to do something, and we're trying to figure that out. Right now we have an underwater scene with volumetric lighting, with some like coral and some subject in the middle or something. Might not be bad. Okay. I'm going to go with the underwater scene for now. I think that's a good idea. So, if I were to sketch something out, let's sketch something out. Let's open up Photoshop real quick and see what we can do here. I want to keep it simple, but it'd be cool to tackle the volumetric lighting to get you that underwater kind of feel. We can talk about some sort of like spotlight down on a central subject, and we can use like Cinema4D scatter or Octane scatter for coral and stuff, and maybe some fish in there. Okay, let's try this again. Let's go 4,500. What's going on here? What? Oh. 4,500 by 3K. And just a random, like, quick tip. So I learned through a very skilled photographer, someone I look up to very much, that his name is actually Mark Edward Harris. He's a fantastic photographer. I actually did a podcast with him on the Corridor podcast. And I took his class at Sammy's Camera, And one of the things I learned from that class was, as a photographer, you want to keep your aspect ratios the same throughout your portfolio, right? You don't want different aspect ratios. It just doesn't look as good. So I took that and I ran with it. And basically everything I post on my Instagram it's all photography at this point. It used to be lifestyle stuff and just random whatever, but all of the photography is a 3:2 ratio. So that's why I just did a 3:2 scene right here. Recently, I've done some like 16:9 widescreen shots, but other than that, it's usually on the 3:2 aspect ratio. So if you guys are looking to keep your portfolio clean, try and keep your aspect ratio of all of your images the same, and it'll look nice and clean. Hello from Kazakhstan. Gooview, welcome. Okay, what is the underwater scene going to look like? Currently, I'm using my mouse right now because the latest software update on the little pen tablet kind of jacked it up. So let's figure this out. So we definitely want it to be, let's see. You know, something like this maybe. And in the middle there will be something here. I don't know what yet. Maybe it's like a sword or something, or in the sand. I don't know. But basically, we're going to want to have a large, like, volumetric light come down from the heavens and light our scene. Oop, that's not right. And light the scene here. So I'm just doing a sketch. It's rare that I do this, but in this case, you know, this makes sense. Basically something like this with maybe, it's very plain. It's very plain. We could have like scattered throughout like a bunch of like, you know, coral reef stuff going on in the foreground. This is supposed to be coral, guys. I don't really know what coral looks like right now. It's just kind of like seagrass in the foreground. Maybe there's like steps leading up to this or something, you know? And I'm certainly open to all of your guys' suggestions here. So I will be reading the comments to see, you know, what y'all are suggesting for this image. But Muskrat Mike, welcome. He has a question. Just curious about people. How are people handling situation? What is Corridor Digital's stance? What actions are you guys taking for all that's going on? Again, weird question. Not a weird question. I think it's a relevant question. So in LA, you have different businesses closing down, people working from home and whatnot. So today is obviously Saturday. This kind of went down all this week. Half of the guys were in San Antonio filming. So come Monday, we're going to actually figure out what we're going to do, if we're going to work from home, if we're just going to stay working at work. It's a very small group, so we'll see. But yeah, I mean, like there was a lot of people rushing to the grocery store and cleaning out the shelves. They were out of chicken. We tried to get some chicken. They're out of that. Out of toilet paper. And you can definitely tell that like people aren't really going outside. I've been going out, but maybe this next week we'll see. We'll see how things progress. But yeah. Now they shut down the NBA. I was supposed to go to a basketball game on Monday. First basketball game I've ever been to, or would have ever been to, and they closed that down. So that's a bummer, but it's all for the best. So yeah, we'll see how it goes down. Hopefully all you guys are all right. And what kind of vibes are going on for this stream, guys? We're making an underwater sequence today. We're talking about volumetric lighting and how to get that like foggy, that foggy lighting where, it's volumetric lighting. It's basically lighting through fog, where you can see the light. You can see the shape of the light shining down on your subject. So we're going to be doing a little bit of that. And I've never done an underwater scene before, so this will be interesting. We're going to have some stone steps here with some sort of, subject in the middle. I don't know if it's going to be a statue or a sword or a robot maybe or something. I have no idea. There'll be some coral in the foreground. And then as far as the background goes, I'm not quite sure yet. Maybe some like rocks or something. But we'll see. Yeah, we shall see. And yeah, let's just jump in. Let us jump in. So this is basically it, I think we can start setting this thing up. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is set my ground here. We have like little sandy patches here. And then I'm going to want to find this pillar here that our subject will sit on top of. So let's see if we can't find that on megascans.com. This is my go-to website for anything 3D. They have the highest quality. You can always count on the quality with this place or with this site. Oh man, they came out with some sandbag barriers. Yes. Oh man, these guys are the best. So I'm just gonna do a quick search under 3D assets for, let's see. I'm gonna do a quick, some chains would be cool maybe. Let's do a search for stairs. If they have anything like circular, that would be nice. Is this it? That's it? Well, shoot. Okay, maybe what we'll do is make our own stairs. Maybe, let's take another look. I bet you they have something. Like, this is kind of in the vibe. Some old ruins. Putting a statue up here would be pretty sweet. All right, we're kind of getting into the zone here with this. Right here. But let's keep going and see what they have. Yeah, let's follow Sotomonte's advice here and just search for pillar. I think this guy would be a good start because we can actually duplicate this a couple times. So I'm gonna log in and download this, and then let's set up our ground plane. So we'll grab a texture for sand, and then we'll lay our camera down and we'll lay this pillar down and start to get a feel for like the overall general feel of the setup. And the goal here is to start as general as possible and then work our way into the detail. So we want to get the lighting down, we want to get the feel down, and then we'll start doing the micro stuff. And every stream I got to shout out the playlist here. So I put together like a ambient playlist for you guys. It's in the description of this video right now. It's a Spotify playlist. You can it's what I'm listening to right now on the little bone phones right here. And yeah, it's just super peaceful music to do some VFX to and hang out. So while I download this, you guys can check that out. All right. Sweet. Okay. Let's bring this model in. And you get prompted with this dialog box when you bring in any new model. And usually all this default stuff is pretty good here. But what I'll do and what I want to make sure of is that the up axis is set to Y. And sometimes that'll change depending on the model you bring in, and sometimes that'll change depending on the program you're in. So you just want to make sure that the up axis for the program you're in is correct. And the model will come in correctly and it'll look nice. So we'll load that here, render our scene. And, you know, we've done this a million times before. I'm going to make an Octane glossy material, drag and drop it on the model here. And we're going to go in and, you know, drop our pictures into the appropriate channels here. So we have a diffuse pass, we have a normal map, and a roughness map. And that should be good for what we're doing here. I don't think we're going to need much more. So there's our diffuse. And our normal. And the normal is going to give you all that good detail. And our roughness, which controls the amount or how spread out the reflection is of your object here. Yeah, there it is. We could go one more step, and let's just do that for the sake of this thing here. And drag in our displacement map here. And that is going to actually physically displace the geometry of this model. So if you look here on the corner, and when we put the displacement map on, we should get some extra detail. Boom. Now it looks all chunky and gross there, so we need to change our settings. First, I'm going to set the mid-level to 0.5. And that basically evens out what geometry gets pushed up and what geometry gets pushed down. It's gonna happen from the midpoint. So you'll get something like this versus like, you know, everything going like this. And then we'll do height. Let's just set it to 0.1 to see what that looks like. Okay, and we'll set it to 5 centimeters, and let's take the level of detail up to like 4K, and that should give us some more detail. And you'll see if I take this on and off, we will store the render buffer, and let's take that back up to 5 centimeters. You guys can see the difference in detail that it gets us. So that's physically displacing the geometry of this model, and it looks a lot better to me. Cool, so we'll save this. And let's make a new scene. We can turn off the comparison there. And let's lay out our ground plane here. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you guys can do that in whatever program you're using, whether it be Cinema4D or Blender or 3ds Max or Maya. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys coming into the stream here. For any of those people who are just joining, we are making an underground, or not underground, we're making an underwater scene here. Something like this, with like a little pedestal in the middle with a sword or some sort of subject, with some like foggy volumetric lighting coming down onto the subject. And that's what we're doing today. So let's set our ground plane up and make sure our scale is right. So I'm going to spawn just a figure here. And in C4D, the figure, the height is basically a little under 2 meters. So this person is basically already set to an average height. So that gives me a good sense of what the scale is going to be. And we'll put them as the subject for now. Let's hold down the little cube box here, and these are all of our primitives in Cinema4D. And if we go over to the bottom right and you see landscape, we can do some really cool stuff with this. Now, certainly you can do this with a plane and displacement maps, but and like noise maps and whatnot. But this is actually a really cool way to control our ground plane here. We can scale this way up. So if I go to the top left here and I select the little model box here, I can use these little points here and push and pull and stretch the geometry. So let's just do this. Let's make it pretty large. And we'll want our camera to be somewhere, you know, here-ish, lined up and centered. If we make it like a, let's see, let's select our camera. Let's go with just like a 50. Let's render our scene. Okay, obviously, we're not underwater. We are in some sort of stairwell here. So, Control-Shift-Z to undo camera moves. If you guys ever get stuck in Cinema4D, let us save our scene because that's the most important thing here. Don't want to lose our work. Okay. So before we texture the ground, let's see if we can't get the lighting right. So let's see here. For whatever reason, I'm kind of feeling like taking the ground plane and kind of just curling it up on the sides. So I'm going to hop out of the camera view here and see if we can't use a bend modifier to do that. So I'm going to hold down Shift with the landscape selected, and bend is actually the first thing we see here. And I've never had luck with this thing. Like I'm very confused when I use it. So maybe, whoa, that's crazy. Okay. So it's pulling it's bending it. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. That looks like a crazy wave or something. If you gave it like a water texture. That is awesome. Anyway, I basically want to like taco this thing, you know? So let's give it a little bit of that. And I think there's a way to like, there it is. Yeah, to rotate the modifier. So we'll go 90 degrees on that. And you see how it's, there it is. It's kind of bending this thing. We'll go 90 degrees. The angle we'll keep at 0. And then we will rotate this another, is it going to work like that? 45 degrees? I'm going to undo that. Let's say, let's crank up the settings. There it is. There it is. So I just cranked, I believe, the y-axis for the bend. and that's going to give us like a nice curve there. Now, if you take landscape and then rotate it 45 degrees, go to object, coordinates here, landscape coordinates, and we rotate it on the right axis. We'll find the right one eventually. Negative 45 degrees, and that way it kind of lines up. So now what we need to do is just let's center the axis on this thing so we can have better control over it. So I'm going to select the landscape, and let's see if this works. It's the center axis 2 tool. That does not work. So let's see if the axis center tool will work instead. So I'm going to click that, and you get prompted with this little dialog box. And for those of you guys using C4D, you're not going to be able to find this because this is a custom button I dropped in here. If you hit Shift-C, you can type in axis center, and you can either drag it up into here to make a little custom button, or just click it. Maybe you have to double click it. Yeah, you get prompted with this little box. Basically, if you just with default settings, I'm going to hit execute. Didn't work. So let's check the points center box here and try execute again. Still not working. Let's include children and execute. Still not working. Let's try use all objects and execute. Something happened, but it wasn't what we wanted. So I'm going to undo that. Axis to object to. Maybe it's because it's not editable. That's probably why. Is because it's not editable. So let's just manually move this guy in place. I'm hitting W to bring up the move tool, and I'm just gonna position this guy just about there. And then let's adjust this this ground plane a little bit to give us a bit more detail here. So we'll go to object, and we'll start messing with some of these segments here. Let's do width and height, width and depth segments. Let's go 200. That'll give us a bit more detail. Let's go 100% on rough and fine furrows. Gives us a bit more detail. Scale. What's scale gonna do? Interesting. Sea level. Okay. Plateau level. So I'm just kind of messing with this stuff to see what looks cool, see what works. Let's bring this down a little bit, and I'm hitting S to snap whatever I have selected to the viewport. I still think it's a little much, so let's take the furrows down. Let's go like 75 and 75, or 50-50. Okay, save the scene. Maybe we can duplicate the landscape here. So I'm holding down Control and dragging out. Let's delete the bend for now. Go into this new landscape. Let's hop out of camera view by clicking this little crosshair button. And let's see if we can't just like add. I'm gonna undo the rotation, and let's go 45 in the opposite direction, maybe 35, and position it just on the side here. And let's use this one and scale this. Let's see. Let's scale this up so we have a bit more detail on the sides. Hop back into camera view. And yeah, you have a little bit of detail right there. And I think it's going to be nice when we texture it and it's going to fall off into the fog. And I think I'm going to use fog here. because that'll give you the same effect as being underwater, I believe, at least. Holding down control, dragging, and I'm going to hit R for rotation and just kind of rotate this into position, move it back. Something like that. I like that. That's pretty nice. So let's see if we can't get the lighting right, because that's what we were trying to do. I get sidetracked a lot. It's going to happen, I promise, but let's get this lighting down. Everybody doing all right? Following along okay? Ooh, okay. So yeah, we could use the mesh poly brush and kind of push and pull polygons as needed. I'd say that it would be like a micro detail right now. So we still want to stay as macro as possible, as general as possible, and then we'll work down into those details. But that's a good suggestion. You guys have any more questions? Everybody following along and doing okay? All right. So lighting, how are we going to do this? Let's see. I kind of feel like instead of an image, it's going to be more of a color. So I'm just going to start from scratch. I'll delete my Octane sky. And we just have, it's just gray. I'll make a new one, an HDRI environment. And if you don't have the custom button set up, basically if you are using Octane, you can basically go to materials. I lied. You can go to objects, and right here is an HDRI environment, and that's what I made right up here. And you're basically given two options. You have the ability to use an HDRI image, which is this like blue half sphere here, or on the left, if you click that, it's going to give you the option to just do a color. So that's what we'll do. And we'll make it, let's go to Google real quick and let's look up underwater scene. And these are a little too bright for my taste. This is kind of getting into, in terms of color, kind of the vibe. Oh, but there's that, what's the, like, underwater statues? This thing. This is crazy. Yeah, this is a really interesting look here. This is kind of the color I'm going for, with like a grayish blue up top and like a turquoise down below. That feels about right to me. So let's try and get that nice gradient right there, yeah? And you see how the detail falls off into the background? That's what the fog will kind of do for us, and when we shine a light down through here, it'll give us a nice volumetric look. All right. So maybe what we need to do here is set our Octane sky to that color. And I wonder if you can just use the color picker here. I doubt it's going to transfer over. Boom. Oh my goodness, it does. Ha, that's great. Sweet. Okay, and then let's just make a I'm going to save, and let's take an area light. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Bring it up top. Way up top, actually. I'm going to get out of camera view, zoom out here, bring it up. And then let's make this larger. So it's really encompassing the entire area. Let's go back in. Obviously, that's way too blown out, way too intense. So we're going to take the power down to like 10. Let's try 1. And I still want that spotlight kind of look. So maybe what we need to do is kind of walk that back a little bit. I'm going to hit T. And that's going to bring up our scale option here. And I'm just going to scale it back down. Hop back into camera view. And let's take that light and set it back to like 30 power. Maybe 15. This is good enough for now. And we want that like turquoise look, right, for the bottom. So let's bring that image back up. And in the little dialog box here for the light, I'm going to scroll down and use light color. Does that work? If I check that, I believe the easiest way to change the color on the light is to go to texture, and we're going to go down to plugins, C4D Octane, and load an RGB spectrum. And that you should be able to control, the color of the light. So with this little dialog box here, or this color swatch picker thingy, we're going to pick this turquoise color here. And that should indeed give us the kind of vibe we're looking for. Oliver, welcome. We're making an underwater scene today. We started out the stream having no idea of what we were going to do, but it's an underwater one today. We're going to talk about how to use fog to make it look like a kind of volumetric, gross water kind of look. I just pulled up this reference right here, and we're going to use this to kind of base the scene around a little bit. And you can see here, it actually looks like they threw up some underwater lights because these guys are all lit from the right side. Unless the sun is coming from that way. I have no idea, but it definitely looks like there's some lights hitting this thing. Interesting. And here's another thing. You see this fall off, this ramp from this turquoise or from this blue to this greenish color. That transition, I definitely want to get that as well. So maybe these mountains on the side, I don't know, we'll see. Maybe that'll be something we walk in as we continue the look here. And if you see your light and you don't want to see it in the renderer, all you have to do is click the little area light tag, go to visibility, and uncheck camera visible. Okay, so now let's just grab our fog real quick. So basically the fog is going to allow us to have that fall off, that underwater look. Everything's not clear underwater, so that's what the fog is going to do for us. All right. So while I set up the fog, if you guys have any ideas for the subject of this scene, right now we basically have an idea for a pedestal with like a sword in it, which I'm not the biggest fan of. It's pretty generic. The underwater statues are pretty sweet. Like this is awesome. And maybe we'd be able to cover it in like, some greenery or something. And then we can talk about like caustics here, and caustics are it's like underwater lighting and how the light gets broken up like that, and we might find a quick workaround, like cheat method of doing that. But if you guys have any ideas for the subject of this scene, let me know in the comments here, and we can take a look. Hey PUBG, Octane Fog is not that complicated. Let me show you. It's actually pretty simple. So check this out. If you go to Objects and you roll on down here to Octane Fog Volume, let's make one of those. You get this box, this black box here. And the scariest part about Octane Fog is that it will wreck your system if you're not careful, because it's very render intensive. So basically, let's just pause the renderer for a second. Let's get out of camera view and zoom up into this box. So with the volume selected, I'm going to hit S, and that will basically snap the viewport to the object you have selected. So we'll zoom on in here. And you see how it's basically in the viewport, it's a bunch of different cards like this, broken up into different, subdivided like this, right? And this is a very tiny area we have. If we want to do this to our entire scene, it's gonna be pretty intense for the viewport alone. So the first thing I do when I bring in an Octane Fog volume is I'll select the fog volume, and I believe it's under generate. Yeah. Okay. So the voxel size, you have voxel size in the editor, and then you have it in the renderer. So for the editor, it's set to 5 by default. And let's just see what happens if I set this to 4. It's going to get more detailed. You'd think that a number going lower means, oh, there's less detail, or not as render intensive. Let's go to 3, and let's go to 2. And as soon as you set that to 1, your computer might explode. You can see how it's chopped up a whole bunch here. So we want to go the opposite direction. The first thing I do is I set it to 100. And right away, you just get one card. And it's going to be a lot easier to navigate around your viewport. And when you start clicking these little little triggers and start pulling these, you'll see that it's broken up in a lot more of a it's a lot safer, right? You're not going to crash your system. And again, we're just talking about the viewport, not in the renderer itself. So let's just kind of set this up so that this volume of fog encompasses our entire scene. And you don't have to go way into the background. You don't. And also, notice, you see the fog behind the camera? That stuff counts too, like that's taking up computer juice, right? So you're going to want to move this so that it's right up in front of the camera. And again, you don't need to go that far into the background. I'll go a little further, scoot it up, so we're making the most use of our fog here. So right now, it's like a low-lying fog. And we're going to want to scale this up. And once again, be aware that you're trying to get it up above the camera and out of view of the camera. Keep in mind that you have all this lower fog here that's below your camera, and it's still being computed. So you're going to want to use that, right? You only want to use as much fog as you need. So I'm going to bring this up, right? Just so that it's right on the ground there. And that should actually be plenty for our scene. You can set the fog size in the editor to 200 even if you'd like, But ultimately, once I get it set and I feel like it's in the right place, of course, I'm going to save the scene. And then I actually hide the fog volume from the viewport itself. And it's really easy to do that. So basically, in most programs, I know a lot of you guys are using other programs. In most programs, you're going to be able to hover over something and it's going to show you what it does. So if I hover over this top little circle here, next to the volume, it says volume object volume. Okay, it doesn't tell me anything. Okay, yeah, it doesn't tell me anything at all. So in that case, you start messing with stuff. So this top little light, if I click it once, it turns green. That means no matter what, it's always going to be seen in the viewport. The top light is for viewport. The bottom light is for the renderer, okay? So if I click it one more time, it's going to turn red. And that means it's not deleted. It's not gone from your scene. It's just turned off, like your little eyedropper is turned off. And that way we can navigate our scene a lot easier, you know? And same if you don't want to see this, this bend modifier right here, I wonder if we can just do the same. Yeah, we just turn that off in the viewport and you can see a little bit easier. So yeah, let's hop back into camera view and let's unpause our scene and see what happens here. Let's re-render it. Okay, there you go. The fog is way too thick. That's what's happening. It's just darkness. So let's select our fog and let's go, I believe, to medium, right? And in medium, you have this little white box here, and it's a volume medium loaded into this channel. Let's click that once. And here you are with your fog options. This is how you control your fog here. So the density is set to 100 right now. It's far too much. Even if you go down to 50, it's still going to be far, far too much. I usually go down to 1. And in this case, 1 is still too much. So let's try 0.1. Okay, now with 0.1, you're starting to see something. So that's great. And you already have this volumetric effect happening from up top here. And I know that's something we're going to need to change because the light here, you can actually see like this square look of this light. We want to have more of a global top-down effect on our image here. So, you know, this amount of fog actually doesn't feel too bad to me. I'm going to scoot it back because it looks like it might be missing just the foreground. I could be wrong. Let's take the fog volume. Let's go to our top view and just move it back a little bit. Yeah, that looks about right. I don't think it changed much. It was pretty normal. Save the scene. And, you know, fog takes a lot longer to render, so that's just something that you have to deal with. If you have more graphics cards, then obviously it's going to go a little bit faster, but, you know, you just got to be patient. Be patient with it. It totally is worth it for that atmosphere. So everybody following along so far? Everybody feeling good? Give me a little thumbs up in the chat here. Oh my goodness, Squidward's house. If it was like a super dramatic interpretation of SpongeBob. That's really funny, actually. That's really, really funny. Like an old pineapple house or something, or Squidward's old house, just like a dilapidated, broken down Squidward house. That's pretty good. You guys are awesome. Heck yeah. Everyone's doing great. Dude, we got 132 viewers right now. That's the most viewers that we've ever had on the stream. Heck yeah, you guys are great. Everyone's staying inside, keeping healthy. CG Studio asked what GPU I have, what graphics card I have. I have a 1070, I believe. Yeah, I have one 1070. I would love to get, you know, a better graphics card. At work, at Corridor, I have two 2080 Ti's. and it makes rendering a lot easier and a lot faster. Yeah, the 1070 is doing me right. Just one of them. Actually, first question, DA or Die? How do you say your name? It might be DA. It might be Die. Who knows? But he asks, why don't I use a denoiser? Honestly, I really enjoy the film grain look. I shoot a lot of film. I shoot a lot of 35 millimeter film, and I love the grain that it gets you. So the denoiser, where sometimes it's the right move, you know, it's the right thing to do. In this case, I don't really use it. It just it smooths things out a bit too much for me. And when you have the ability to, you know, just let something render overnight or something render when you're gone, why not just render it normally? You know, why not just max out the samples and have it go? At least that's my mindset with it, right? Okay, let's see if we can't start to work in this look a little bit more. So, the camera tab here in Octane, you have the camera imager option. And usually by default, this comes unchecked. We'll go ahead and check that. And you can load different LUTs and color settings and saturation levels and all this and that. So I'm going to load the response here. It's set to linear. My go-to is Kodachrome 25. I love the look and feel of this color setting here. And let's set the gamma down to like, all right, let's go up to 2.5, make it a little bit brighter. You know what? The gamma should stay the same. Let's take the exposure up to like 1.5, 1.75, you know? So we have a bit richer colors, a little bit deeper colors here. And we can certainly tweak all the color settings and stuff as we get closer to the final image. But right now, I'm feeling like the fog feels pretty good. Let's actually go in here. Let's go into the fog. Let's go to absorption and scattering. That was another thing I forgot to tell you guys about. So the absorption, you know, to be honest, I don't know exactly what these two things do specifically, but I know that they work together in how your fog reacts with the light and everything. So absorption, I usually go with a brighter white. So I'll set that to like a 0.9, and I'll tab down across the board there, and I'll like, it just makes things brighter. Boom, just right off the bat. Let's just try 0.8. And the scattering, we can just keep that at 0.5. And I know these can take certain colors and change the color of your fog, and that might be a good way to mess with the color a bit. So while we're on it, let's just see what happens. If I take this down, yeah, that's going to give us like a greenish hue to everything. So that could be a way to get some more color out of our scene. And if we're going to reference that Google image we had, yeah, it's more of like a turquoise foreground with a deeper blue background. And right now it's kind of just like one color. And I am colorblind, but it definitely looks like kind of one color here. So let's see. Let's raise our camera up here a little bit. And what if we change this to direct lighting? What does that look like? Path tracing is always better. Okay, especially for fog and whatnot. But yeah, let's see what happens if we change the color of this here. Let's do like a. Let's try and go for that turquoise vibe. So that's too green. It's closer. You know, the background should certainly be that that blue. So let's go back to our Octane sky settings and let's just crank up. Oh, okay, so the saturation is maxed on this. What if we just take the color up a little bit, or the brightness up? I'm sorry. Yeah, somewhere in here. And then in your camera tab here, if you set the saturation a little higher and start messing with like your exposure, we can start to get something that feels, oh man, that's awesome. That feels right. And I'm just tweaking. Okay, so then we also have the light color here. So maybe we can take up the saturation and brightness on the light, as well as the power. And we're going to want to go higher on the light because we can obviously see the light here because we are underwater and we have this volumetric vibe going. So let's hop out of camera view and bring our light up a little bit higher. And let's make it a little bit brighter, yeah? Okay. What if we just take our light off? And we go to our Octane sky here. And we turn up the brightness of our background. Let's turn the light back on. So yeah, all of this like pushing and pulling of your light intensity and the different colors of everything involved, you can mess with this all day. So I think right now we're in a pretty good place to start working on the ground. Let's get like a nice sand texture going through here. It looks a little low poly right now. Once we do that, let's start getting the subject better situated, and then we can start working on like the detail lighting. Like if we want to do like a more intense spotlight on this thing. We can also scatter stuff along the ground. So I'm still looking for any suggestions you guys have for the subject of this scene or any little ideas. That's the best part about this is reading your guys' suggestions and incorporating a lot of stuff. You guys helped me out on the last 2 streams like immensely, figuring out different cool ideas to how to make the image a lot better. So really, really appreciate you guys. Yeah, so let's get this ground plane going. Couple different options. We can use mega scans and search for a sand. Here, surfaces, and it's gonna be something more along the lines of a smooth, sandy material versus you know, like a chunky, rocky situation. So we have like something like this. This is not bad. We also have something like this, which is not bad at all. Or like this. It looks a little compact, you know. Same here. Maybe not that bad. Ooh, a moon landscape next time. That would be sweet. Yeah, I'm down for that. But hopefully, next week, next Saturday, hopefully, if he's down, excuse me, guys, I'm drinking too much coffee here. Ren is going to come over, and we're going to do a really fun challenge where we're going to, you guys saw the Boss Town Dynamics video that we did, right? So basically what we're going to do, or attempt to do next week on next week's stream, is recreate, a little scene from Boss Town Dynamics live for you guys, and basically have the robot playing Beat Saber, because Ren loves Beat Saber. We'll get Ren, playing Beat Saber all crazy, and we'll record the mocap data and have the robot playing Beat Saber. And we'll take it all the way from the mocap data all the way through to the compositing. So if you guys are down to see that, go like this video, leave a comment or something, and let's get amped for that, because I think it could be really, really cool. We're going to try and do it in 2.5 hours or so, 3 hours tops. And you guys will see the whole process of how to drop the robot in, how to render texture, track the scene, composite the scene, and me and Ren will just basically switch in and out of the chair here and do that for you guys. So I think that could be really, really sweet. But yeah, let's find that sand. Ooh, we got free sand right here, desert sand. Honestly, I don't think it matters too much when it comes down to the exact sand we want to use. But let's always check references. Always, always, always check references. And you can see here, it's a pretty smooth sand. Man, that's so crazy. Look at this. All right. I think this is a good one here. Let's do this. Let's also grab some coral and stuff. So under 3D plants on Megascans, they also have, I believe, a underwater, an aquatic section. Submerged. Yes, this is what we want, this kind of stuff here. So there's only a small little chunk here. I know they have coral and stuff too, I swear. Let's try coral. Oh, these are all cards. Basically, you put it on a plane and it's just 2D cards and whatnot. I think we'll be good here with our aquatic pack. So we have ocean seaweed. We can basically download 3 of these and just scatter it along the ground as much as we need. Okay. All right. So the real name's Andrew. All right, Andrew, nice to meet you. Thanks for being on the stream here. Okay. Melanie, we got how about an Atlantis scene with ruins underwater? We'll see. That might be a little intense for the stream today, because I do have to be out at basically out the door at 3 o'clock today. So We'll see here. Northern Light Drone or Dome Hotel, but underwater. Looks super neat, like an underwater observatory. That's a really cool idea. Super cool idea. King Arthur, Excalibur, and the Rock. Not bad. Timothy, today we're making an underwater scene. And we're taking suggestions for what the subject of the scene should be. So I'm all ears, man. I am all ears. Oh man, Clarissa says, wouldn't the pattern of the sand be determined by the depth and if ocean currents can affect it? Probably. But we're not going that detailed here. We don't know how deep this is. We just don't want to know it's got to look cool. Some coral and seaweed look nice. Nice pop of color. Yep, shipwreck from the a shipwreck scene. Yes, yes. A shipwreck scene would be pretty involved. Maybe next time when we have a bit more time. But let's keep going. Let's get this sand popping off here. So I'm going to make a diffuse material because I know I don't want to bog down the system with more info than it needs here because we already got the fog going. And I know the sand will probably not be very reflective. So let's find our landscape, our ground landscape here, and let's up the poly count. And actually, real quick, I'm going to hop out of camera view and basically do the same thing that we were talking about, but for the ground here. I'm going to move it up just enough so that the camera is only seeing, the camera is seeing all of the ground plane, and we're not wasting any detail here when we subdivide this ground plane even more. So let's go 300 by 300. And you basically need, if you go any less than that, you just don't want it to look low poly, right? So I'm just trying to be clear and stay clear of that. Let's take the Octane Diffuse and drop it on our landscape. And let's hop in here and start dropping some images onto this texture. So let's see. Let's unpack the sand here and let's drag and drop. We got a normal, we have a displacement map, and we have a color and an ambient occlusion map. So I'm going to drop that down into the node viewer here. This is our normal. Let's start with our color pass, yeah? So let's drag that into the diffuse. And let's just render a region here so we can see what we're doing. And let's turn off the fog so that we can really see what's going on. And already it's not bad. The scale might be a little large. And I think the ripple effect that we're looking for is probably going to be baked into the normal map as well as the displacement map. So let's keep going. There is the normal map connected. Yep, and I think it's a little large. We have a displacement map. Let's save that for last. And finally, we have an ambient occlusion pass. Let's just set up the ambient occlusion pass. And that's basically a black and white image, just like this, that gives us a bit more shadow in the deeper parts of the image, as you can see here, right? So let's just load that in case we need a bit more detail in the shadows, and we need that the grooves to pop a bit more. So with my diffuse pass or my color pass selected, basically what you want to do is, like if you were in After Effects, for example, right, and you had this image on top of your color pass, you would set this to multiply, right, to get rid of all the white and to leave the gray levels. And it's basically the same thing here in Octane or any other node viewer, depending on what program you're in. Should be basically the same. So we'll find a multiply node, we'll drop it into there, and we will drag and drop the ambient occlusion pass into the second texture option, and you control it basically with the gamma here. So if I bring the gamma down, it will get rid of the AO, or if I bring the gamma up, it will make it more intense. As you guys can see down here, just by sliding that, you get more detail in the grooves, and you're faking it. It's like a fake effect. So let's just set that to just half for right now. Or in fact, let's turn it off, and then we can walk it back in as needed, right? And then finally we have our displacement map. So I'm going to make sure I save the scene here. And let's add a displacement tag here. And you need this displacement tag or this displacement node in between your image and your actual texture, because this is how you control your image in the displacement settings. So before I even pipe this in, I know I want to set the mid-level to 0.5. Let's take the height just to 5 centimeters for now, and then let's take the level of detail to, let's max it out at 8K. I'm not sure the image is, what is the size of this image? It is an 8K image, so we're going to set that to 8K. Now let's drag it into there, and we should see some movement down here. It's very subtle. It's very, very subtle. But let's leave it like that, because I know this image down here, it's too large. So we're gonna have to scale down the texture. You can do that in a couple different ways. And usually what I do is I would select the image here, click on projection, and make sure the projection is uniform throughout. I'll set it to box usually. But I know that with displacement maps in Octane and it communicating with Cinema4D, it doesn't really work as well as we would all like it to. So I know that I have to do it a different way. So we have all these images piped into the right places. We have the texture applied to our ground, and let's do it for the rocks as well. And let's actually take those rocks and set the segments to 300 by 300. I had both of them selected. I changed the settings across both, which is a really cool thing C4D can do. So let's just highlight all these textures here. And let's set the projection. Let's leave it the same actually, and let's just say tiles. Let's set that to 3 by 3. And already you can see, look at that. It looks so much better. That is awesome. Okay. That might be it. That looks really good to me. Let's try, just for the sake of it, let's try 4 by 4. Yeah, sure. That's cool. I think 4 by 4 is great. That feels really good to me, to be honest. Let's uncheck the render region. And let's turn our fog back on. And under the fog settings, so we can see like the edge here of our background. We certainly don't want that. And our sand down here is a little too saturated in green. We want to kind of go more for this look, if I can find it again. Yeah, this look right here. And you have that nice fall off into the background, which is definitely what we want. So we can do a couple things. Let's see, what would I do? Let's take this area light and let's just adjust the color here. So I'm going to make it brighter. Okay. Let's go to the camera tab and let's set our saturation from 1.5. Let's just set it to 1 for now. I can still see that line. There's a couple things we can do there to blend that a bit more. Let's see. Let's turn off those. Maybe. I think they're fine for now. Let's take the fog volume. Let's hop out of camera view. Let's turn it back on in the viewer, and let's move this fog volume up a bit more so that it the fog trails off into the background a bit more. And you don't have to have the fog right in the foreground too much because, you're going to see through it anyway. It gets more apparent as you go into the background. Let's go to the fog volume. Let's go to medium. Click that little box. And the density, let's set it to 0.2. And that should start to blend things a little bit more. I'm going to render region, just a vertical strip, so we can see what we're seeing. And already, it looks like that did the trick. We still need to get our colors right, but that definitely blurred the foreground into the background. Okay. Awesome. Let's take the absorption. Let's go more of a blue with it. Whoa. That's very blue. Ooh, okay, we're starting to get there. We're starting to get there, y'all. You see with that blue to the green. We still want the foreground to be a little brighter, so let's go to the octane light. Let's make it even brighter here, just the color of it, right? That's starting to feel right. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Let's render the region with the light right here. So this vertical strip here. Everybody doing okay? Following along all right? Okay, Andrew has a question. He says, do you know how to get away from this visible tiling? Because I can't find anything to get away from it in Cinema4D. Yeah, actually there's a couple tricks you can do to get away from this tiling look that you're talking about, which is basically, and real quick, I'm really happy with this lighting setup here. This feels right to me. So let's turn off render region, let's turn off the fog, and let's talk about this tiling that Andrew's talking about. So if we zoom out and we look down at our ground here, it actually, I can't see the seam, to be honest. But usually here, basically what he's asking is when you have a large area to lay up texture across, usually like a ground plane or something, you can really see the tiling on the texture. And one way I get around that is basically to take the ground plane, I'll duplicate the ground plane, and I'll rotate the ground plane around. Let's see, you'd have to do it, so the bend modifier is messing with that a little bit. So in this case, it would probably be something along the lines of, you'd have to group the two planes together, the two landscapes together. But let's just say real quick, just for demonstration's sake, let's uncheck the bend there. Let's get rid of these other two. Right, and you have this ground plane, and it might be tiling. Right? And I can kind of see it. It's kind of tiling here. But if you duplicate it, all right, Andrew, you duplicate that, and you throw a new texture on it. It's a texture that is kind of similar to your first texture, but it's a new texture, okay? And you rotate it a little bit like this, and you see how like different parts pop out, right? You're gonna reveal different little chunks from the new texture you just put on. And even here, with just the same texture applied, it kind of breaks up the feeling a little bit more. So I'm actually using a bit of elevation with like the terrain here. Like you can use a displacement map for that. Or if you just use the landscape object in C4D, you have a little bit of terrain like this, right? You duplicate it, you rotate it. It's either a new texture, or in this case, maybe just the same texture. And it's a way to break up the visual kind of look of your ground. So that's one way to really get rid of the tiling effect that you're talking about. Another way would be to, let's see. Another way would be to get a little bit lower to the ground. So you're not looking straight down at this ground that's tiling, right? Okay. Cody, what's up, man? Thanks for joining the stream. Hope you're doing well. I hope you are staying healthy, getting away from that coronavirus. But thanks for watching. I hope you are learning something. I hope we're all being entertained here, and hopefully it's pretty chill. All right. So let's figure out the subject of our image. Let's grab the this little pedestal and drop it back into our scene here. Let's turn off the fog volume for a second. Hop out of camera view. And I hit S to snap the viewport to the subject, or to the model I have selected. And it's having trouble loading the images, so I'm just going to refresh the scene to make sure it's not that. Yeah. Okay, so we're good. So we have a cool little pedestal thing here. Let's take the pedestal, let's scale it up a little bit, and then make sure it's on the ground plane there. I'm going to duplicate it, Control C, Control V. I'm going to bring it up, scale it down, and make sure it's just sitting right in there to give us that like stone step feel. I'm going to rotate it a little bit so we have a bit of difference between these guys. And then I'm going to do it one more time, I think. Hold Control, drag it up, hit T to scale it down, hit R to rotate this guy the other way. And I think that gives us a nice little pedestal look here. So now it's just what do we want to put on this thing, you know? I think the Squidward house is pretty funny. Oh man, I kind of want to do the Squidward house. But like a bunch of statues would be super cool, certainly. God dang it, what does Squidward's house look like? Can we model this quickly? It's a very easy model. It's a very easy model. We basically have an hour. Can we model Squidward house in an hour, texture it, cover it with moss, have fish swimming through it? Let's try it. Let's try it. Hopefully it doesn't end up looking like this. Okay. Squidward. Oh man, we got to put like a bunch of clarinets, like broken clarinets on the ground too. Okay, let's do this. What's the easiest way to do this? Let's take this, let's save it. Oh, I can't believe we're doing this. Save it to the desktop. Let's save our scene. Let's make a new one. I'm going to hit Control N. And let's load a little reference image back here. So I'm going to make a plane by holding down the cube here. I'm going to hit R, click and drag, and hold Shift to snap to a 90-degree angle. I'm going to hit W to bring up the move tool. Move it back a little bit, bring it up a little bit. And let's make a new material, drag and drop that material, double click that material. And under the diffuse tab, let's load an image, and the image we'll load is the one we just downloaded from old Google. Okay, let's try that again. What on earth? Why is it not working? Wow. I don't know how to save images from Google, guys. This is bad. Let's try it again. Squidward house. A perfect Squidward house. Here we go. All right, that's a JPEG. Boom, we got a Squidward house, but the dimensions are all weird because we need to set the dimensions of the plane to the dimensions of the image. So let's check the dimensions of that image real quick. 768 by 576. 768 by 576. That is the proper dimension of a Squidward house right there. So let's go into front view, hit S, and let's set our view mode right here, our display, to just ground shading. And that way we can actually see what we're doing. Let's make a person for scale. About yay, okay. We'll move the plane and scale it up so that we get the right scaling. This thing's pretty big. I'm gonna hit L and move. Oh, I can't do that because it's not editable. I'll make the plane editable by hitting C. Okay. Let's undo that and take the segments down to just one by one. Let's make it editable now. I'm going to hit L to move the axis down to the bottom center of the door. It's this tool over here, the Enable Axis tool. The shortcut is L, and that allows you to move the axis around. So we'll go back to model mode and we'll just position this just so, and we'll scale it so the person is about a Squidward height. All right, so then we have our size right. So now what we want to do is save it first. Save our scene. Basically, we're going to use the pen tool to just model this thing. Let's set the plane. If we go to basic, just click the X-ray. That way we can see our grid here. And right next to the cube button, you have your pen tool. Okay, so I'm going to hold that down, and the pen tool is what we want. Yep. I'm going to zoom in here, and we can adjust these points later, but we want these 2 points. We're going to basically trace half of it, and then we're going to make sure that these 2 center points are right in the middle at 0. So let's click there. We want to make sure this is a 90-degree angle, so we can always come back and adjust it, but basically I'm clicking on the corner, And this is definitely at a perspective, so I'm going to basically meet it halfway about there, and then back, boom, right on the center point. Now let's go back to the select tool. Let's make sure that these 2 points are on the same x-axis, right? We don't want them off center. We want it to be flat. So I'm going to select both of those. I'm going to hit basically the scale button here. And if I move the y-axis, we want to get it to, let's deselect plane here. Let's get rid of the plane. Go back to our spline and just make sure we have those 2 points selected. I'm going to hit T for scale, and basically you want to move this, you can scale it so that it hits 0 on the y-axis. So if you type in 0, you're going to know that those points are exactly in the same place on the y-axis, 749.529, and it's the same deal there. So we want this point to be on 0. It's just off. So you set the x to 0, and we're basically going to do like a lathe wrap here on this thing to give us the shape. We'll select that base point there, and we want that to be at 0, 0. And we'll go to this point out here. We want it to be flat on the ground, so we'll set the y to 0. And now, if we take, if we go into 3D view here, we'll select the spline, we'll hold down Alt, we'll hold down our subdivision and lathe. We let go on lathe, and boom, there we go. We also could have just scaled down a sphere or a cylinder a little bit, but hey, we gotta learn something new, right? So we got that. We'll subdivide it later. Let's hop back into our front view. Let's hide the lathe, and let's bring back our Squidward house. And these will just be cubes. We'll just scale cubes around to get us the look here. I'm going to turn the X-ray on, and I'm going to make the cube editable. And I'm just going to scale this down. All right, so it's about that. I'm going to hold Control and move this over here. Okay. I'll hold Control again for the nose. Make sure it's right there. Move it up. Scale it up a little bit. Bring our lathe back in. So these guys are too deep, so we'll bring those down. The nose we'll bring out. And we know that the bottom of the nose is a little bit bigger, so we'll scale that up. And we know that these, the ears, are inset a little bit. So we'll just select the top polygon and bring them in so that it kind of matches the shape of the head. Okay. Ooh, Milan, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you, brother. Guys, that is a super chat. If you guys don't know, I got that enabled a few weeks ago. It's a cool way to communicate. Also, with all the comments and stuff, it's a lot easier to see because it highlights it and everything. So appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. I hope you guys are learning something. I hope we're all having fun, and I hope this is super chill for you guys. Yeah. All right, we're doing the Squidward head. I feel like this is tough for me. I just feel like I'm rambling the whole time. So I hope you guys are doing all right. Let's keep going. So basically, we'll add bevels to all this stuff and get the geometry right for all this stuff in a second. But we know we want the unibrow across the head here. Let's take this point here, bring it in a little bit. And then we have our unibrow. So let's select our lathe. We'll hit C, we'll make it editable, so it's just one object. I'm going to hit KL on the keyboard, and that's going to give us this like circular cut tool here. And I'm just going to cut the little unibrow into the side of this thing. UL is a loop selection with polygon mode selected. We'll select that, and then we want to extrude that out. So I believe that's MT as a shortcut. Yep, or you can right-click it and select extrude from right in this little quick menu here. And we'll scale that up and out. Fantastic, fantastic. All right, so let's cut the door out. So what we'll do is we'll go back into our front view, and let's hide everything besides the Squidward house, and let's real quick just do a little pen tool on this door here. So we can go a little lower because we're going to boolean out this piece. I'm going to click once and see if I can't get, yeah, there it is. Boom, and boom. Close the spline. And let's just adjust this real quick. Go a little point mode. Grab the move tool and just straighten that out. And for symmetry's sake, we'll make sure that is 0 on the x-axis. We'll make sure that is what? -90. And this is +90. Let's try 80 and -80. Okay, and then we'll use an extrude function here on this. So if we select the spline, hold down Alt, and you hold down this button here, the subdivision surface button, inside you'll have the extrude. So I'll let go, and that gives us basically this piece here. With the extrude tool selected here, I'll go into the object mode. We'll set that to 50, so it's a little thicker, maybe 60, okay? And we're going to cut that out of the Squidward building. So we just want to cut that hole right there. So I'm going to use a Boolean, what do you call these? They're not modifiers, they're not objects. They're kind of like, they're not effectors. You know, there's something. They're basically things, they're tools, right? They're tools to help you get a little further on your model. So let's select the house, and then we have the extrude here. So I'm going to make the extrude editable by hitting C. Let's select the lathe, hold down Alt, and with this little instance button, I'm going to hold that down. Let go on that. That makes a little bool object, and I'll drag the door just inside. All right. So let's just let's chop up this lathe here so we gives us a lot more polygons to mess with. So I'm just gonna hit that once. Actually, you know what? Let's put it in subdivision surface here. It looks real bad because we need to come in here and make some edge loops to better define this object. Boom, boom. Looking good, looking good. So we're just making these cuts to really define the shape of this thing. And that's going to give us a lot more polygons to play with when we want to deform this thing and give it some texture and shape and stuff. So I'm still going to actually make some cuts into this. So I'll turn off the subdivision surface. I'll hit KL for the little edge loop. Click once. We can set that to 50%, and then let's just start adding. I think that is plenty. Let's do the same for up here. We'll set it to 50%, and we'll just add a couple more cuts. Perfect. And so when we turn that on, that gives us plenty of space to work with. Fantastic. Okay. Now we just want to even out. Let's give, again, there's no such thing as a hard edge, right? Because if you want stuff to catch light, it needs to have a little rounding to it. So this here, let's, how are we going to do this without getting everything else? Let's select this. Let's group the bool object here. Hold down Shift, and let's just give it a little. Let's give it a little bevel. We'll check the use angle threshold button, and that's kind of doing the job. Is it doing it up here as well? I don't think it is. It's exactly what we want. Fantastic. So let's go like 2 centimeters. 1.5 is good. Let's give it 2 subdivisions. That looks pretty good. There's a little jankiness happening down here, so maybe if we scale up the extrude, it'll kind of even that out. Yeah, there we go. Sweet. That's our Squidward house. Let's just make sure. Let's make sure our ears and everything are good. All right, so let's we want to bevel these guys here. And we'll turn X-ray off. Let's get in here. And let's go like 2 and 2 for the offset and the subdivisions. And then we will give these cubes a bit more polygons to work with. So same deal. You know, we can probably just subdivide this stuff. Yeah, maybe we get rid of the bevels and we subdivide these. We're gonna need to make some cuts. What the heck? Why is it not working? Okay, that looks good. Let's just subdivide this a little bit. Sweet. And we'll do the same to the other. And finally on the nose. Sweet. So this is ready minus the door. So let's go to Megascans really quick, and I'm sure there is a circular door. 3D assets, door. That's it, huh? Well, I guess technically it is a wooden door, and we just slap that thing in there. Maybe not under 3D assets. I swear there was like just a normal old door that would work. Yeah, like old wooden door, basically this or something. But you know, this medieval door looks pretty sweet, so let's download this real quick. All right. Oh, of course we need the eyes. The little portholes, but that should be easy enough. Let's drop in that door we just downloaded real quick. You guys know the drill on this stuff. We have done it more than once. All right, now let's just let's cut this thing up. All right, it's all one model here. So yeah, we basically just want the door, nothing else. So I'm going to use the rectangle selection tool and just start selecting things and deleting. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to save this asset because, you know, probably use it later. And now we go back and we start deleting the stuff we don't need. Should basically be it. Just a little quick cleanup on this. Let's grab this little piece here on the side. Yeah, that's basically it. So let's just copy this into the Squidward house model, paste it. And it should just be inside of the house. Bring it forward. Scale it up. And then I'll just get rid of these excess pieces here. And then finally we have our little portholes. So that'd be glass and steel, but it's basically just tubes. So we'll spawn one tube, bring it up, rotate it 90 degrees. And for those of you guys still following along, we are making a little Squidward house for an underwater scene that we have loaded up in another window. And we're almost done with the Squidward hut. And we'll be dropping it in momentarily, so stand by. Let's see. Let's just bring our reference out to the side here. And we can start positioning these eyeballs. And let's definitely add some height to these guys. Boom. Kind of popping out, but I guess that's kind of how it's done, yeah? Maybe let's rotate these a little bit in. Yeah, okay. Let's select both of those. Let's rotational segments 50. Let's give it some height segments and some cap segments, so we have some geometry to work with when we want to add a little bit of detail to this thing. Let's give it a fillet here of maybe 2 segments, maybe 3 segments, 2 centimeters. That feels good to me. And then finally, let's select each one of these guys, hold down Control, and then hold down the primitives button, and let's make a disk, and that will actually spawn it right on the cylinder or the tube or any object you really, it'll put it in the right orientation, right? So we'll do the same for this other one over here. We'll select the tube, hold Control, and spawn a disk. Bring it forward, scale it down. Boom, Squidward house. Done. Okay. So what do we do now? Let's actually scale up the this door. All right. Sweet. Okay. So now we need to texture this thing. It's definitely like a rocky texture. This is great. Okay, let's get rid of our reference here and the figure. And let's just drop let's drop everything under one group here. Call it Squidward house. And we know we want, let's see, that would be ear. I'm just going to name all this stuff. This is nose, other ear. This is just call that house. We have our door, which is already textured. Both of these discs would be windows, and the tubes would be portholes. Awesome. So let's group the windows as one group, and then let's group the house, the nose, and the ear in another group. And the door will just stand alone. So, okay, let's texture this thing real quick here. So we want it to be a mossy kind of run down look, but first we need the base look. Let's see what we have on the old Mega Scans. We'll just search for rock. We want surfaces. Ooh, like a coal. Interesting. So it's kind of like a dark rock. But it's broken down and dilapidated and whatnot, right? Salt mine wall. Interesting. Or something like this. Yeah, this isn't bad. Icelandic mossy rock. Whoa, that's crazy. Lava stone. Interesting. Let's try, where was it? This mossy rock, Icelandic mossy rock. Let's download this. It's a nice crunchy texture there. So, for those of you guys hopping into the stream, we're at an all-time high. We got 191 people watching right now. Basically, we're doing an underwater scene, and we are texturing a Squidward house right now to drop into our underwater scene, which we have pulled up in another tab. And once this is textured, we'll wrap it up and do the final touches on our scene, make it look real nice. I appreciate you guys for joining and staying in here, guys. I know this is a long stream. And I know some of you guys don't even have Cinema4D, so it does mean a lot that you guys are sticking in here. This is awesome. This is very, very cool, very fun for me, so I really appreciate you guys. Okay. Oh, we're still downloading. All right, cool. That's still going. In the meantime, what can we do? Yeah, let's get the windows. So part of me feels like we can just make these things like chromed out sphere or chromed out little planes here. And then the these portholes, we can just make like a dilapidated metal. Or like a kind of a gross steel. So I'm actually going to use the Grayscale Gorilla Everyday Materials pack. I use it a whole bunch, and it's a very quick way to texture your stuff. So yeah, I'm going to use the Live DB Viewer in Octane for that and see what we can find here. And this was made by the man himself, Chad Ashley. He is incredibly talented. Oh, we got some rusted metal here. I think some rusted metal would look really, really nice. Let's do that. Let's download that. And then I wonder if there's like a moss we could do here as well. So like organics. Yeah, we have grass, but it's not really grass we're looking for. I guess it's more of a, I don't know, maybe that would work for what we're going for. Let's just try it. Grass 4, why not? Let's download that. And then if there's anything under concrete, we might be able to get an interesting rock texture. No, would it be under organic still? It is all good. We are going to move on here because I do have to be out of here in about 20 minutes. So let's see. Let's drop this rusted material on the eyes. That looks awesome already. Yeah, that looks great. And then let's load up that rock material we just downloaded from Megascans and drop that on to the Squidward house. Okay, let's see. Let's make a new material. A glossy material. Let's go into here and start dropping those images. We got roughness, normal, color, and displacement. We'll want the displacement for this one as well. So we'll drop those in. So we have our color. Let's do that. Ooh, very nice, very nice. Let's drop our roughness. And that's going to change the reflection. Yep. Let's drop our normal. That's going to give us a lot of detail here. Yeah. And obviously you can see that the way everything is, the way the texture is distributed, it doesn't look right. But we'll fix that. And let's make a little displacement node here. And we'll set the height to 0.1 and then the mid-level to 0.5 and the level of detail to 8K. We'll drop that in. And let's get our, let's get this material looking right first. So I'm gonna save this. Let's click on this material here. Let's set it to a cubic. We should see it update in here. Maybe I have to re-render the scene. There you go. Already it looks a ton better. And let's now mess with the displacement. So we'll set the height to 10. That looks pretty cool. Definitely looks old and gross. For some reason, it's getting... Oh, no, we're good. Yeah, there's the door. So this is more of like a bluish color. So let's hop in here. Go to the node editor. Let's go to our diffuse image here. And let's drop in a color correction node. And let's just change the hue of this thing. Yeah, already that looks better. It makes the door pop a lot more too. Sweet. And then finally, I think we're going to just do a quick mix material on the rock. And we want to give basically everything on the top here, we want to give it some moss. So let's go into, how are we going to do this? Yeah, we'll make a mixed material. And we'll drop our rock and we'll drop our grass into that. And then we'll drop that onto the house. So it's mixing both of those together. The mixed material needs to be set to cubic as well. Let's go in here. And right now it's being split up 50-50. We don't want that. We basically want to put it in specific areas of the texture here. So it could be in the corners or it could be just on the top. Let's see what on the top looks like. So I'm going to grab a fall off node, drop that into the amount and set that to, let's see here. We'll set that mode to 90 degree. So now everything, basically you have one texture just on the top parts of the model and the other texture everywhere else. All right, so that looks pretty interesting. It's certainly hitting the nose a little bit, but I think that's okay. Let's try something else. Let's do, so we have that, right? We have our fall off. We might be combining these at the end of the day. And then let's throw a dirt on there as well. And the dirt, let's set the strength to 10. Let's set the radius to 20. And you can see how the moss is kind of growing inside the cracks and crevices. We'll set that to 100. Let's try inverting it so it's just on the edges, which doesn't look quite right. So we'll invert it back. Radius maybe 50. Tolerance, we can leave about the same. The details, and we'll leave that about the same as well. Let's basically see if we can't crunch this down a little bit. So I'm going to drop a gradient into there and just kind of crunch these settings. Or rather, we want to basically break up this dirt node here. So I'm going to do that with noise. Let's drop the noise into the amount. Set the projection to box. Set the contrast to 100 so we can see what we're doing. We're going to scale up the noise. Let's go to 3. And then let's set the octaves to 8 and the omega to 1. It's going to give us more detail into that. And that's how we want to basically break up the dirt node. So I'm going to use an add. Or no, I take that back. I believe it's a multiply. So dirt goes into one, noise goes into the other. And you drop that into the amount. Well, that mixes everything together. But that's actually not bad. So I'm going to save that and basically do... Oh, also you guys will notice the displacement is gone. So let's take the displacement node from the rock texture and drop it into the mixed material. And that should bring it back. Yep. But now it's all mossy. I think it's the dirt node. We just need to change the settings on that. Radius maybe 20. Oh, I see. I see. So there's a lot more crevices and cracks, and I think it's just using the displacement to bring in those crevices and cracks and stuff. So I'm going to take this dirt node here and combine it with this fall off map here. So that's going to be through a multiply node. So we'll have both of those going in to the amount. And it's like super mossy. And we want to do the same for those portholes. So I might honestly just take the same material and drag that onto the windows. Nice. That's seen a lot of time down at the bottom of the ocean. Perfect. All right, let's keep moving. We are closing in on the end of this thing here. So I might tweak the eyes in a minute. Also, we're still getting this error here where the door is not quite working, but yeah, there it goes. So I feel like technically there'd be moss on the door as well and the windows, but we'll see here. Let's copy the Squidward house and paste it into our underwater scene and see what this looks like. Ugh. Everybody still hanging in? I know it's been about 2.5 hours now. I really do feel like I'm just rambling to myself by the end of this thing, so hopefully everyone's good. Hopefully everyone's still following along. All right. The house made it. They made it underwater here. So we need to adjust our light a little bit. We'll bring it up, scale it up. And let's take the Squidward house and just kind of rotate it off axis a bit here. This is so ridiculous. Oh, that looks so creepy. That's awesome. Oh, that's super creepy, actually. So I just want to brighten things up and make sure that we can actually see what's going on here, guys. So I definitely feel like this is the beginning of this image. It's going to take, I think, a bit more lighting. It's going to take, I'd like to scatter some stuff on the ground, like some rocks and some seaweed and kelp and whatnot. think the eyes are a bit too reflective, certainly. So we can pull that down a bit. Yeah, officially. This is official SpongeBob canon here. I want to make... I certainly want to make the house seem a bit more broken down. Oh man, but the eyes being that reflective is actually pretty sweet. Let's maybe see if we can't get another Octane light off to the side here. This will just be a white light. Maybe the fog is a bit too thick right now. I'm going to crank up the scattering phase and see if that helps anything. I think that just scatters the light a bit more. So maybe what I'll do here is have one part of the fog actually be in the foreground that is not as intense, so like 0.1, and then I'll control drag it back into the background and try to set that to 0.2. Let's see if that does anything. And I'll just do a render region for just a little strip here. So this will help actually if we can see, let's see, there we go. There's our fog. Let's crunch it down and just put it behind the Squidward house. And we want this fog to be a bit thicker. So it's looking a little bright. So our side light might be a little intense. Top light can come down a little bit. And let's give it a little bit of fill light here from the front. So let's make a new Octane light. This will be our fill light. We'll back it off just a little bit. Turn off the visibility. This is so ridiculous. Definitely add some vignette, but we'll probably do a bit more of that in post. What's up, Garrett? Welcome. We're doing a little ocean scene here. I'm still tweaking this thing like crazy. It's going to take a few more hours, but unfortunately I'm going to have to leave in a couple minutes here. But yeah, I'm just going to have to keep plugging away at this thing. Keep tweaking the lighting. Very tedious stuff. Maybe some boring stuff. I don't know. Maybe you guys be down for that. Who knows? But I definitely want to scatter some coral on the ground as well. Maybe a little bit of depth of field on this thing. And just a couple more things to make it feel underwater, and a couple more things to make the house itself feel a bit more like broken. So maybe I might break a piece of the ear off or something. I don't know yet. Maybe the nose too. But I do like the reflectivity of the eyes. I think that feels cool to me. Definitely add some fish and some floating particles or something. And Vigord, it's you said when I make stuff in C4D, do I add film grain as a layer? Like I'm blending with actual footage, and I do actually. Yeah, once everything's done and rendered, I go into Photoshop and do final tweaks there and add some film grain to give it, make it feel like I was actually there. I try to make this stuff as photoreal as possible. So, yeah, that's certainly kind of my style with these renders. I know everyone has their style, and you guys should certainly find your style. I'm still finding mine, but yeah, at least I know that I'm trying to go for photorealism. I'm adding film grain to this stuff. And I, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you'll see I like add the white border and everything to make it feel like a nice framed image or something. But it's about all the time we have today. These things they could just get longer and longer and longer. And, I wish I could bring this thing to completion right now with you guys. But, yeah. Yeah, I hope you guys learned some stuff doing this. And I hope you guys are still working on your scene as well, your underwater scene. I can't wait to see what you guys do. The Discord has been updated thanks to Sotomonte. Made him a moderator. And, yeah, it's going to be a lot more organized for you guys. So if you hadn't already, please join the Discord channel. The link to that is in the description of this video. And if you guys are looking for a fun way to help me out here or give back, I do have a website. I always feel awkward bringing this stuff up, but hey, you guys got to know about the website because I'm excited about it. Look how cool this looks. Got all my images and photography here from around the world, shooting film, some digital as well, and I got the little collections tab here. Free shipping on orders over $100. We ship worldwide, international, and we try to get the prices down as cheap as possible. But I sign it, give some music recommendations, write a little note on the back, send it to you guys usually within a week or two. But what I really want to do is start posting some VFX assets. I know like the photography stuff is not quite connected with this with the renders and whatnot, so I would love to do some sort of like VFX pack for you guys, or some texture pack for you guys, something a little cheaper. I know $40 is a little expensive for most people for an image, but that's basically all I have at this point. But I really do appreciate you guys joining. Thank you so much. Give this video a thumbs up and a like. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you liked about this. Let me know what you didn't like about this, what we could do better next time. And the Discord is also a good place for that as well. So, yes, next week, fingers crossed, Ren will be coming over and we'll be taking, we'll be making a Bosstown Dynamics scene from scratch for you guys. We're going to apply the robot to mocap data. We're going to light the scene. We're going to do some 3D motion tracking. We're going to render it, and then Ren is going to composite it. We're going to make an HDRI as well, and we'll bring it from start to finish for you guys next week. That one might go, I don't know, probably be like noon to 3, noon to 4. But we'll see. We'll see how long that takes. We want to keep it reasonable, But yeah, thanks for joining, guys. I really appreciate you, and I'll see everybody next week, hopefully with Ren by my side here. And y'all stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.